All right, well, it looks like it's just me, which is fine because I need to do this edit anyway, and hopefully it'll make a useful video for somebody in the future. Oh, I have a viewer who's joined me. Whoever it is, welcome. It's just you and me, which is pretty cool because I charge $200 an hour to teach macro photography, so you're getting a video lesson for free. All right, so if you have any questions as we go along, just let me know in the chat, and I will attempt to answer them. I'm going to assume that nobody who's watching this actually knows me or knows what I do. I'm a macro photographer. I have a channel called Allan Walls Photography, and all of my video stuff is about macro photography, close-up photography, and things related. And I make quite a lot of videos. I've made about 500 of them, so I learned how to use this editing tool in order to put my videos up, and over the years I've done a lot of them. So what I'm going to do today, because it was on my schedule to do anyway, is finish editing a video that's going to be released hopefully in a couple of days. It may take me more than a day to edit. It's quite a long interview. This is the second half of an interview that I released just a few days ago. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just walk you through everything that I do, and while I'm not going to go slowly or anything, I will explain everything that I do as I'm doing it. Now, your opportunity to learn from this is stop me if you have a question. Just put it in the chat, and I'll stop what I'm saying. I'll loop back and explain anything that I went over too fast. Now, the first thing we need to do is share my screen. So I'm going to do all of this editing on my big screen, and try to do everything else down here on the computer. So from now on, we're going to be looking at my screen here. We won't be looking at my browser though. So let me try and get my desk organized here so that I can see what's going on and I can see the chat. That's the most important thing. I just did a live stream night before last. It was a photography live stream, and I spent a couple of days getting that edited and ready to go. So it's been a busy few days. All right, so we're good on everything, and I can come back up here and pay attention to what I'm doing. All right, so I was editing some stuff in Lightroom. We'll get rid of that. Actually, we'll just hide that down there, and I'm going to open Premiere Pro because it's not open. Premiere Pro is a non-linear editing tool. It's an Adobe product. One of the things I love about it is it works really well in the Adobe environment with all their other software. If you use other software like After Effects or Audition or anything like that. So this is actually not going to be a new project. This is going to be a project that I already did the first half of. So we're going to open up this file, which is the old video. But I am going to show you how I would start a project if it was a new one, just so we can say we covered that. I'd click on New Project. Now, what I do is I just title it up here. So I'd call it video, whatever. And then I don't try to put any content in it here. This is a new thing that Adobe just added, and I don't really like it at all. So I go straight from naming my video down to the bottom right hand corner where I hit create. and that will open up the editing window that we're going to be working in all evening. And this is what it looks like before it's populated. And then what I like to do is go over here to the media browser, find my files and bring them into Premiere. I'm going to do all of that right now with this other video, but because the other video has already had some stuff edited in it, it's going to be a little bit slicker than that. So we're going to close this project. In fact, what I'm going to do is close Premiere Pro altogether and restart it, because whenever I try to close down a project, it never gets rid of that project, and it tries to rename things. So yeah, this is just a safer way for me to do it. So this is the video we just made that has nothing in it. This is the one that we're going to be editing. So I'm going to open up this thing now. I reorganized some files so that it would be easier for me to show you how I bring the content into Premiere Pro. And as a result of that, Premiere Pro cannot find a lot of my files. This is a mistake that you'll make early on a lot. Don't ever move files once you start editing a video. Leave them where they are. If you move them within Premiere. This is the same as if you use Lightroom, same rule. So I'm not even going to look to see what all it is that's missing, because I have a feeling I know exactly what it is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to locate the first video, and it should locate the rest of them. So let's well, actually, I'll tell you what, I'm going to locate one of these pictures because I know where they are. So when I hit locate, another window opens. Sorry, they open up on all my screens at once. So let me find this. It's a photograph from in this file. You see, what I did was I renamed this file Axford 1. It was named Axford. So that's the error that I made, and Premiere Pro can't find it because I renamed it. But if I open this file and I go to the stills and I go to the one with the volcano, that's the one it says it can't find, and click on it and then click OK, then Premiere will start looking in that same folder system for all of the other files, and it found them all. So don't freak out if Premiere says it's lost your files. You've just probably moved them. Okay, so what we have here is a set of 5 windows, I guess, and this is the timeline. This is where we're going to be doing all of our work. This is the screen that shows what you will see in the video. This is going to follow the timeline. So as we move the timeline, we can move through the video. All right. This down here is where all your assets will go. Let me resize these windows a little bit more to my preference. All right. So this is where all of the assets for this particular video have been put, but I have more assets to bring in here, so I'll show you how we do that. The most important thing with handling a lot of content that you're going to be making a video out of is to name it and put it in a sensible file system that you can keep track of, so that when it comes in here, you know where to look for things. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to open my Finder window, and I am going to go to a drive that I have. It's an 8 terabyte drive that I use for current videos, and that's the only thing that's on it. And I'm going to show you where I keep the content for this video so you can see what it looks like. Hang on, wrong drop down. I don't like that view. I prefer this view. So I know that I've got this in Axford 1. I made an Axford 2 folder but decided not to use it. Excuse me. I decided not to use it because everything was already in this one and there's a bit of overlap. So what I've done is I have split up all of the content into different folders that make sense to me. Like Axford audio is the audio that my interview guest recorded locally in Australia when I interviewed him a week ago. I asked him to record video of his talking to me as well as audio. I do that as a backup, and wouldn't you know it, this particular video, the Zoom crashed and I lost the recording. But we were able to put it back together because he recorded his stuff locally. So this is his audio. This is some video footage he sent me that we're going to be working into this video. These are the still photographs that he wanted to share, and we've got a lot of great photographs going in this half of the video too. The problem, there was a bit of a problem with his video, but we got that sorted out. So I have the video that we're using today is the second half of the thing, and it is this video right here. So this is something that I haven't imported, but I'm going to import into the project. I got some music I pulled down from Epidemic Sound, which is the music service that I use in case I wanted to use some music with the photographs. I haven't had to use any of it yet because we've been talking the whole time, but I've got some stuff here if I decide to. These are my video clips, that is me doing the interview from this end, and this is my audio. So I have a clean audio and video for both of us, so I can recreate the interview as if we were in the same room. I put all my production artwork, for example, I made a cover for the video, and I keep all of that stuff in the same file so I know where to look for it. This doesn't get imported into into Premiere Pro. Other materials were some documents that they shared with me to help with the interview. That's all, just again keeping it in the same place. So that's how I arrange all of that. But we don't need to mess with the Finder or your Explorer, whatever computer system you have, because Premiere is going to do it all for you. So when I imported these, it kept them in the same folders that I had them in. And this is excellent because this way I can find what I'm looking for. Now, one thing we're not going to find in here is the last piece of video because it is still on my computer. So what I'm going to need to do is go to the media browser, and this will be your best friend as you're doing editing. Because when you click on the media browser, it'll bring up every file, every drive that's associated with your computer. I have a lot of drives on my desk to keep up with all of this stuff. So I know that all my videos on the video drive. So if I go to that, it follows exactly the same layout as my Finder. So I can go straight to, where was it? Video projects, and it was Axford 1. And there it is, and these are all the files. Now I don't want to re-import stuff I've already imported, so all I really need is something in the Axford video, so I'll open that. Now, if you want to preview the video clip that you're getting ready to import, because remember these are not in the Premiere yet, they're on your computer, you can just click on it and use the space bar to start it playing back. Now I think that this is the one I need, but let me check. Now it's starting it in the middle, so I'm going to drag the little black square back to the beginning. I don't know if you can see that. I can't. There it is. And then hit the space bar. That's actually the beginning of the first video, so that's not the one I want. Might be this one. So I'm finding the right piece of content here. He's listening to me over his laptop.
That's that guy.
Okay, that's them showing me their garden, and I know that's where this video begins. So this is the section I'm looking for. So I'm going to right click on it and hit import. Now it's brought it in and dropped it into my video, but that's okay. That doesn't matter. I'll move it back to his bucket from mine. just to keep things straight. So this is where it is, but I want to put it in his video. Yeah, I think it's right there. Oh no, it was right there, so I don't know where I just put it. Let me try that again. It doesn't really matter, it's the only clip, but just so as you can see how to keep it organized, let me try that one more time. So I'm just clicking it and dragging it to his video, and it keeps jumping off there. There we go. So now I've dropped it into his bin. I think that's what they're called, is bins. So this is the video that I'm going to use as the basis for the video I'm making. And we're going to do it in what's called a sequence. A sequence is a stretch of time in which your video is laid out. And you can have as many sequences as you want, and you can keep them as short and as compact as you want. I have a very bad habit of making my sequences very long. This is the first video that I made, and it's a lot. This is a lot of editing right here to get this finished. But what I did at the end of this edit, knowing I'd be coming back to do another, was I started a new sequence and I copied the stuff from the first video that I was going to be using again and dropped it in here. Let me show you how I would do that. If I go to the original video here, if say I wanted this piece to come with me, I would just drag a box around the whole thing. I would hit Command C to copy. Command C, you'll use that one a lot. That now copies all of this. I would go to the new video, and I'll tell you what, I'll make a new sequence just to demonstrate. I'll go to File, New, and Sequence. It'll open a window asking what I want to call it. We're going to call it Demo Sequence, and hit OK. Now it's already set the way I had the first one set, and we'll talk about that very briefly too, but there's a trick to this. If you're doing a video that is you talking on camera, which is often going to be what it is, if you import your video clip in whatever format it is and then simply take it and drag it and drop it on the timeline, it will set all these settings for you. The only problem is if you have an unusual clip that's not typical for your video. If say you've got a clip from YouTube you're starting with and you drop that in here, it'll set up the settings for that clip, not for your clip. But in this case it's set up correctly for a DSLR recording at 1080p and 30 frames per second, which is the way I had it set up. So we're good on that. The settings will not change throughout the video, and we're calling it demo sequence, and we hit OK. This will open a new empty timeline, but it's still part of the same main project. So now all you would have to do would be to drag your video clip onto the timeline and drop it. Okay, and it's telling me it doesn't match the sequence's settings. That's because the sequence was set up using one of my clips, not one of their clips. So that is a warning that comes up, and usually I would recommend that you only change it. It's asking you, do you want to change the settings to match this clip? It depends. If all of the rest of the video is on the settings that go with these clips, then that's fine. But if this is just one of the clips and the settings are based around your camera and the way you set it up, you're better off to just hit no, keep the existing settings the way they are. In this case I am going to hit keep existing settings because we're not going to use this demo. Now let's go back over to the one I've got started, because what we have here is the lead-in to the new video, which is the last little bit of the first video. I wanted there to be a transition, so that people who are coming back after watching the first video and want to watch the second, they'll kind of know where this picks up, because we're going to include the last little bit of conversation that we had. And there's something else though that I want to also bring in here, and that is I made another video clip to introduce this. By the way, I highlighted everything by dragging a box around it, and then I can move it all as a unit. There are several different ways you can do that. I'll talk about that as we go, because you're going to need that tool. So I want to drop another clip in here, and that would be in my box if I've imported it. I don't think I have, so we'll have to go get it. Is it in here? I'm wearing a blue shirt. No, it's not. So I go back to the media browser, and this is where the file system really helps, because I know it's going to be here, and it'll be the last one that's in here. Well, it's actually two. I did one for the beginning of this section and one for the end of this section, and it looks like I may actually have done three. So these are just clips that I made the other evening. So I'm going to copy all three of them, not copy, I'm going to import all three of those. And now it, of course, dropped it in his video. No, it didn't. It dropped it in mine. That's good. So now the audio isn't here either. So I have to go to the media browser once again, except now I'll go back to the main file and Walls audio. And the last, it's just the last two audio recordings, I think. Let me preview this. Otherwise, I'm going to have to get a job. And that's me asking for Patreon supporters. Hosts. I'm pretty sure that's it. I haven't edited much of it out at all. Just okay, so they're both the clips that I want. I don't know what that is, but that's not one of them. So I'll import those, and they'll go into the audio, because that's where I was when I went to media browser. So now I have the audio, and I have the video clip of my intro. So let's now bring in some video, and I'll show you how to set up the whole synchronization process. This is probably the key to making video. If you're making video to show to other people on YouTube, you need to be recording your video and your audio separately. In other words, if your camera, no matter how nice a camera it is, records sound, don't use it. It just sounds terrible. Even the best cameras sound terrible. Get an inexpensive digital audio recorder and record your sound separate from your video. That will serve you in very good stead. All right, so let me find the clip. I don't know if it's this one. Let me show you the source window. This is the other window we didn't talk about, and this is an effects window we're going to be using a lot. So you'll see how these work as we need them. And these are the tools for the timeline, which I'll explain. This isn't really a tutorial. This is you keeping me company while I edit. So I don't want to get too deep in the weeds. If you like this and you want more detail, then I will do a series of videos on it. But for now, it's just to give you some examples. Don't forget, if you have a comment or a question, put it in the chat. I will read them with my right eye. All right, so let me see if this is the right video. So with this on source, I can drag and drop my video, and I can watch it and clip it, trim it up here before I bring it onto the timeline if I want to. In this case, I want to because I want to see what it is. And in my third day of editing the interview with Steve Axford and Catherine Chiniak, 3 days. And the reason I've been working on it for so long was we ended up having to go with I'm not sure if this was the ending to the first video, or I think that this might be the beginning to the. I'm hitting the space bar to start or stop the playback.
This is Alan, and welcome back to part 2 of the Steve Axford interview. We're talking once again to Steve Axford and Catherine. We're talking once again to Stephen Axford and Catherine McChiniak, who talked to me for so long and with so much passion. And
okay, that's the right clip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag the whole clip just by clicking it and dragging it, and I'm going to drop it in the timeline up against the hard left. This is the beginning of the video right here, and the first thing we have to do is bring in the sound that goes with this. Now, every time I turn my camera on, I turn the audio recorder on. So there is a clip that's going to be about the same length in my audio. So I forgot how long this was. This one's 8 minutes, so that's going to tell me that it's probably this one. Oh no, it might be that one. Well, we can also preview the sound up here, so let me have a listen.
Hello everybody, this is Alan, and welcome back to part 2.
Okay, so it is the right audio clip. If I just grab the audio button right here, I can drag the audio down and put it down here. This is the audio tracks, these are the video tracks. You can add as many of them as you like. Every time you bring in a new piece of audio, it's going to go in its own track down here. This is if you want to record something. If you want to do a voiceover, you can click this and actually record through your computer's microphone into the video. I've never used it. This is to solo a track. When you press this, only this track will play in the timeline. This mutes the track so that all the other tracks will play. I have no idea what that does. Toggles the sync lock. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, you can lock the track, and the source patching for inserts and overwrites. I honestly don't know what that means. I'm sure I use it appropriately, but I have no idea what they're talking about there. You'll see what I mean. Okay, so we've got the sound and we've got the video, but there is no way that they are going to be synchronized because I can't press both buttons at the same instant. So when we listen to it, we're going to hear two soundtracks, and it'll probably sound weird.
Hello everybody, this is Alan. Welcome back to
Yep.
Steve Axford.
That'll drive you crazy. So obviously these things are out of sync. How do we sync them up? Simply drag a box over all of the tracks that you want to synchronize, right click and hit synchronize. And then it's going to ask you, do you want to do it from the start, from the end? No, obviously not, because they're both starting at the same place and they're not in sync. What we're going to use is we're going to use the audio on track channel 1 as that's the one that's attached to my video, right? Audio track 1, A1, is attached to my video, and this is the one that we want to use as the reference. So everything else that happens has to be synchronized with this track. So that's what this means. Audio, track channel 1, hit OK. And it will do its computer thing, and it will line these two audio tracks up perfectly together like that. Now they should run together.
Interview. We're talking once again.
As they do. Okay, but we don't need two audio tracks. We just need the good one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate these audio and visual tracks, because right now they're connected. See how I just click on the video and the audio lights up as well? We don't want that. We want to have this audio light up. So what we have to do is separate these, and you click on them, just single click, then right click on the pair, and hit unlink. That then separates them so that all three of these tracks are now unlinked. If you hold down the shift button and then click the video track while this is lit, we can now right click and link those two with the same order right there. Now this becomes unnecessary, and I'm going to leave it here but mute it for just a second because I want to show you why I changed the sound. Now this is my soundtrack that goes with my video. It's all synced up before I even start the edit. Now what I want to do is apply a sound to my voice that I use in all of my videos. It took me a good while to get it set up the way I liked it, but now I have it all programmed into a thing called Essential Sound, which is over here on the right hand side where all the effects panels are. And if I click on Essential Sound, this window opens up, and just about all of my audio is dialogue, talking. If I click on that, it opens up this window. Now you can do everything that you can do in Audition in this window with the sound. It is an incredibly powerful tool, but I've already done it. I did it 500 videos ago and got my voice the way I wanted it to sound. So I have got a preset set up. In fact, I've got a lot of presets set up for voice, like voice outside in the wind, voice in a noisy room, that type of thing. But most of my stuff is recorded here in my studio, which is echoey, but other than that, it's pretty quiet. So that's where I do it, and I use the same microphone positioned in the same way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to default and choose my Audio Technica plus H5 recorder here in the studio indoors. That's the preset that I want to use, and it sets everything the way I want it. That is beyond the scope of what we're doing today, but certainly if there's any interest, I can do a video on how you set this up. But let me show you the difference that makes. Now as this has been applied to the video that was, the clip that was highlighted, let's now listen to, well, I'll tell you what, first of all, we'll listen to the original one. So this is this is what it would sound like if I was using the audio that came with the camera. Sorry, I uncued it. Okay, try that again.
Hello everybody, this is Alan and welcome back to part 2 of the Steve Axford interview.
Okay, I mean, for camera audio, I suppose it's not that terribly bad, but there's a rumble, there's some hissing, there's some echo. It doesn't sound very good.
Hello everybody, this is Alan and welcome back to part 2 of the Steve Axford interview. We're talking...
And that's what it sounds like after I apply the settings that I'm going to use. And I don't really use any fancy settings. I just, in this repair section, I just take out a little bit of noise. I recently increased the reverb. I just moved to a new studio that has echo, and I got rid of all of that. You can't hear any echo in this soundtrack.
For so long, and with
so all of that is done up here, and none of this is very difficult. If I can figure this out, anybody can. All right, so now we'll get rid of this track because I don't need it. So I'm just going to highlight it and hit delete, and that gets rid of it. So that I can keep track of where everything is, I'm going to drag my sound up next to my video. Now let's expand this. I'm doing this by spreading my index and ring finger apart on the touchpad. I don't use a mouse, so this will give you a slightly more spread out look. You can also use these little dots at the bottom. I've just never learned how to do that. So I just use the regular gesture to make it a bit bigger. Now, also, I don't like how skinny the tracks are. I can't see the waveform, so I'm going to pull that down and make it nice and big. You use the waveform visually to plan where your cuts are going to go. If you can't see the waveforms, you can't edit the sound. So it's important that you have visualized all of this. It's less important that you have the video enlarged, because it doesn't give you much information. This line is the opacity line, and this is so important, and this you could think of as the sound opacity line. This changes the volume of your track. Now, it changes the volume of the individual track, and you can adjust it within the timeline, but you can also do all of this through the sound panel for the whole video. So I only use this when I'm making specific changes to the volume of my voice, which I'm getting ready to do with this introduction. Because I think I'm going to add my stinger for my channel at the beginning of the video somewhere, and I may have a little bit of music playing in the background just because that's what people are used to on my videos. So first of all, we need to get this thing back to the beginning, and we don't need all that dead air. So I'm going to hit letter C, will change my cursor into a razor blade, which I will just click over where I want to separate the video. Now, you'll be doing this a lot in the course of editing a video. Now, in this case, I'm just going to hit delete, but there are some keyboard shortcuts that will allow us to do that same process in the middle of the timeline and collapse everything back to fill in the gap. We'll get to that later. So now I'm going to hit V again. They're the keys you'll hit more than any other. C to cut, V to get back to the move tool. So I can just drag the thing like so. Now, here's something important. I can drag this video to and fro, but if I drag it all the way onto this, that can cause problems because it will overwrite what's underneath it. So if you have already made edits downstream from where you are right now, if you've made edits to the right of where you are, if there are cuts, and there are hundreds of cuts in here, then you need to hit A, the letter A on your keyboard, to change this to a double arrow, so that when you move where you're working to the right, everything moves with it. Okay, that's how to keep yourself from accidentally overwriting previous work. And then the A key will also let you move it back again. All right, that was a little diversion there for a second. So let me tell you what the layout is going to be of this. I am going to do my introduction right here. Part of this, a lot of it's just me repeating myself till I got one I liked. Then I'm going to drop in this little piece from the other video, which will take us up to current. Then I will drag in the audio and the video from the Axfords, as well as my own audio and video. So we're going to have to coordinate 4 different tracks, plus room for video clips and photographs. So it's going to get very complicated. This is as simple as it gets, and it's getting ready to get a lot more complicated. So but you'll see it uses all the same tricks and tools. So let's concentrate on what we're doing here, which is the introduction. What I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to it and decide which pieces I want to keep and how I want to fit them together, and then I'm going to throw everything else away. So to do that, I need to listen to it, because I can't remember what I said. Even if I could remember, I'd still want to listen to it again. So let me put this back at the beginning, just so I don't, whoops. Oh yeah, I was talking about this, wasn't I? That is the opacity. So you can turn your video off that way and you can turn it on that way, but most of the time what you would use this for would be something like this. By hitting the command key, I can put a keyframe. I'll explain what that means in a minute. It's a blue dot for right now, and I can put another one here by hitting command and clicking on the line. Now I can drag these dots up or down, and what that does is it takes my video from black to fully opacified over a period of a half a second.
Hello everybody, this is Alan and welcome back to part 2 of the Steve Axford interview.
See how it fades up like that? Now obviously you wouldn't have it fade up over that long a period of time, but that's what this opacity line does. Down here is very similar. I can, if I click keyframes in two places, if I just clicked in one place and dragged it, it would just drag the line down. But this way I can put a slope in it, and that sounds like this.
Part 2 of the Steve Axford interview.
So right there you've got enough tools to do some pretty amazing stuff with a video, just using that little trick with the keyframes. Now I'll show you an easier way to do that if you're doing it all the time. You don't want to be dragging these lines all over the place. If you right click on the edge of a video clip, there is a selection called Apply Default Transitions. That actually gives you a lead in where you go from dark to light quite quickly, and the audio that also increases over a short period of time. These are also available in the effects panel, but I, generally speaking, for this part of the video, just use these. In fact, that's not true. I don't use these anymore. I just use the opacity lines. So I'm just going to get rid of that, actually. Highlight it and hit delete. So let me listen to this and decide if I'm going to put any music with it.
Hello everybody, this is Alan and welcome back to part 2 of the Steve Axford interview. We're talking once again to Steve Axford and Catherine. We're talking once again to Stephen Axford and Catherine Machiniak, who talked to me for so long and with so much passion.
Okay, I'm thinking that I might drop my stinger in right about here, so that it's very quick and very out of the way. But let me time that. That's about 10 and a half seconds, and what I really need is 13 seconds for the piece of music I normally like to use. You get used to using certain bits, and yeah, I'll show you what I mean in a minute. Let me see if there's anything else I could use as an intro sentence.
Who talked to me.
I'm just clicking up here and then hitting the space bar.
So this is the second half of our meeting. I haven't edited much of it out at all. Just if you haven't seen the first video, I'd recommend that you do. We learn a little bit about Steve and Catherine, about why they love Australia and they're part of it so much. We learn about the different kinds of mushrooms that they're. We spent a little bit of time talking about Steve's equipment. The pre-mushroom Steve, you could say, that. And then we will...
Okay, there's nothing there that's going to be better than what I already have. Let me see what this is.
I thoroughly enjoyed the first half of this interview, but the second half I think is better. I think everybody was getting a little bit warmed up, and the conversation was lively, and the topics were interesting. So So I encourage you to pull up a comfortable chair.
No, okay, I know what that says. So this is really the only one. Now, what I can do is, what I need is 13 seconds of me talking before the intro. Now, it doesn't have to be. I could take any piece of music that I wanted, or no music at all, or I could just start with the stinger, the splash screen that I use to identify my channel. But I do like to give people something that they're used to. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the main bucket that has the whole project in it. Well, it actually doesn't have the piece of music in it. I wonder where I put it. This occasionally happens when I lose track of where I put something. Don't worry about it. It's business as usual. I may not have used it on the first interview, come to think of it. Let me go to the original and see if I did use it.
And in just a few minutes, you're going to hear me say, hello everyone, this is, it'll be 3 days from now, or thereabouts.
So I didn't use
so
music.
Part one of my discussion with Steve and Catherine. So that's all I have. I will turn it back over to me, and I will take it from here. Or he will. One of us will. Somebody will.
Okay. So this is my stinger, and I didn't use music in the first one. So you know what? I'm not going to use music in the second one either. That would be a little inconsistent. So what I'm going to do is we'll go back to this sequence that we're working on now, and I'm just going to do what I said and start it out.
Hello everybody, this is Alan, and welcome back to part 2 of the Steve Axford interview. We're talking once again to Steve Axford and Catherine.
Okay, I don't even need that much. We can be even more aggressive in this intro. So I'm going to hit C for cut. I'm going to trim my whole video back a little bit more. Now this time I am going to hit a key combination that you need to learn. It is a Command and the letter Q. Command Q, and that will do what's called a ripple edit, and it will. I hit V first to put me back on the move tool, and then Command and Q, and see what it did. It took away the clip that I had highlighted, and it moved the video left to fill the gap. So now, right at 0 seconds,
hello everybody, this
I'm
is
beginning.
Alan. Welcome back to part 2 of the Steve Axford interview.
Okay, I want it to stop at interview. I don't want to add that other piece. So we need to stop it, and I am doing what's called a run-on with my voice. I'm going from here.
Steve Axford interview. We're talking.
Interview where is almost one word. So I don't mind cutting that aggressively because my stinger has a noise at the beginning that will make that blend in okay. So this is the where. Hang on.
Interview. We're talking.
This is the interview, and the where continues right after it. You can see, and let me show you what I'm talking about. You'll get so used to looking at these shapes that you'll even recognize some words in the way these shapes are formed. So,
interview. We're talking.
That timeline's a bit too long.
Axford interview. Axford interview.
Interview ends right there. So if we put the timeline right there, it should start the next word. No, it doesn't. It says view, and then the where starts about here. So I'm going to move it a bit. Let's try that.
We're talking.
Yeah.
We're talking.
So if I make my cut right here, it should end at the end of interview. So that's what I'm going to do. Hit Command to get, C to get the razor blade back. And I'm guessing that the where is starting to rise right there. So I'm going to make my cut right in front of that. Okay, now I'm not going to lose this clip. I'm going to use it. So I hit V to go back to my move tool. I'm going to flatten this a little bit so we've got more room. And what I'm going to do is make sure I've got enough room on the right to move this, to slide the clip to the right a little bit, like so. And then I'm going to drop my stinger in here, which I now have to go find. There it is. It's called Render Main Composition is the name that it got for some reason along the way. It's not very long, it's only a few seconds. So I'm just going to drag it, and it has sound and video, and put it in the gap like this. Now, it's not good practice to have your clip in the same track. It messes up some of the things you're going to do with the track. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it to a new video track and a new audio track just by clicking and dragging. That's all you have to do. Now let me spread this out so you can see what's going on. Now I'm going to drag the connected pieces back to right where the word interview finished. Okay, let me show you what this sounds like right from the very beginning. It's okay, that noise of a flash recharging starts instantly, so that will hide the fact that there's a word following my word. Let's see what it sounds like.
2 of the Steve Axford interview.
Nope, I didn't like that. That cut off the end of the interview. So I am going to actually take back just a tiny little bit of that. Now all I have to do is hover on the edge till you see the red thing, click on it and drag it. Just that was too much. That'll have that other word in it, but I'm going to show you another trick.
Interview.
Oh, actually it sounds good.
Interview.
Yeah, that sounds now good. I wonder if maybe giving it a tiny bit more volume there.
Interview.
Yeah, okay, good. So that does get the whole word. The trick I was going to show you was that if you just bring this clip back and then move it a little bit to the left, it will cover up anything that you don't want underneath it. So we'll move that bang in line. See these little doodads that show up when things are lined up? That's because your magnet thing it's snapping in the timeline is what they call that, and it puts things where they're supposed to be when you get them close. It's good when you need it, but when you don't need it, it's a real pain in the ass, because what happens is it'll not let you position the cursor very accurately. It's always trying to snap to one thing or another, but don't worry about that. This is too loud, much too loud actually, by itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the volume to something like -10 decibels, or even more, -20. That'll make it more consistent with the volume of my voice. And the other thing that I normally like to do is get wherever I'm going to pick up the talk lined up as well, because we'll come straight out of this stinger and I'll continue as if I never stopped talking, except it's not going to be where we cut it.
We're talking once again to Steve Axford and Catherine. We're talking once again to Stephen Axford and Catherine.
That's actually a good place to start it. It's a bit obvious, but yeah, I like it.
We're talking one.
So I'm going to scrub that piece, hit the C for cut it nice and close to the beginning of that word, and then back to V, the selection tool, click on it, hit delete. Now I can slide this section just inside my stinger. because of the scale of this, it's jerking it too far. It moves it in chunks, and I want it to move only a little bit in. So what I can do is I can hit the Command key and then the left or the right arrow on the bottom right hand corner of your keyboard, and that will move the highlighted timeline a little bit left or right. It's kind of like jogging it. So Command and left arrow jogs. I want to jog my voice just inside the stinger because it's nice and quiet here. My logo will be showing up here, but I like my voice to come in as I'm talking behind the logo. It looks a bit more professional, I think. But what would I know? Good point. All right, let's see what the whole thing sounds like.
Hello everybody, this is Alan and welcome back to part 2 of the Steve Axford interview.
That was a bit abrupt.
We're talking once again to Stephen Axford.
Okay, there's a couple of things I can do to make that a little better. First is, I still think that interview word is cut off. So what I might try to do is drag it just a tiny bit, and that's going to be too much, but let me see what it sounds like.
Axford interview.
Yeah. Now, what I could do is, I can take, hang on a sec, let me look.
Interview.
Yeah, we're starting here, and I was close to actually having it right. I'm going to cut it right about here instead. Yeah, let me try that, and we'll just get rid of that. I'll line that up. All right.
Interview.
Yeah, okay, that's better. Seeing as the sound doesn't start until the second sentence, the sound doesn't kick in until we're about a fifth of a second in. I may move this. Yeah, I will, to line it up a bit closer, like that. But I don't want my video blocked off, so what I could do is cut that, but I don't want to get rid of it. I'll just use the opacity thing that we were talking about earlier. So I command click to set a keyframe there, and then another one there, and then drag that one down flat like that. So there will be no video until this line comes up. So let's go back, see if that sounds any better.
Part 2 of the Steve Axford interview.
Much better. That's all a bit quiet. Let's try that.
We're talking once again.
Okay, that's too much. Normally that's fine because of the way my intros flow. There's that little breather is plenty. It's too much when there's nothing else going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that probably about there. Yeah, that was just back on V so that I can highlight it, delete it, and now I'm going to drag my voice in a little deeper. Not deeper sounding, deeper into the intro. So now let's see how that looks. I want it to be a bit snappier.
Of the Steve Axford interview. We're talking once again to Stephen Axford.
Last thing that I would do to improve this a little bit is I would put that either a fade to black or one of those transitions. I showed you how to right click on the end here and hit add default transition. That's one way to do it. That fades this out while it fades in the next clip. What I really want is for this to fade to black. Now I could do that with a keyframe and a slope, but I can also do it by going to effects, And under the effects, the last one it lists are video transitions, and the first of those is dissolve, and down here about number 3 is dip to black. If I click on that and drag the little box down, I'm carrying it down there, and put it on the end of this clip, it will apply the fade to black effect over the clip. Now, if I want to make it longer or shorter, I can do so by dragging it. So now let's see what that looks like.
We're talking once again to Steve
Much better.
and Catherine McChinney.
I could even fade me up. Well, why not? I mean, we're in for a penny, in for a pound. So I'm going to hit the command and click on my video, do the same at the end and pull that end down. So now my video is going to fade in as the video of my tag screen is fading out. So it will kind of overlap. Now this is similar to that default transition, only I have more control over it this way. So this is the last time I'll listen to it from the beginning, and this should be the end of the intro.
Hello everybody, this is Alan and welcome back to part 2 of the Steve Axford interview. We're talking once again to Stephen Axford and Catherine McChinney, who talked to me for some.
Now, this is me, and this might not be the case for most of you, but I just cannot stand hearing myself say or you know, these hesitation sounds. I'm not aware of doing it until I start editing my videos, and I try to remove as many of them as I can without the thing sounding chopped up. And definitely if they sound really bad like that one does, this one, that just sucks. So that I'll get rid of those as I go if I have to.
Once again to Stephen Axford and Catherine McChinney, who talked to me for.
Once you start hearing them in your own recordings, it'll drive you nuts. Okay, so I just clicked on the beginning and the end of the and now I'm going to hit V for the selection tool. I'm going to select the clip I don't want and then hit Command Q to get rid of it. That's it.
Who talked to me for so.
And that, you can't tell that there was a piece in there. That it takes practice, though. You have to learn exactly where to put the cuts, because we have a way of breathing even when we're talking. So you'll notice that some words have a breath preceding them, and you don't want to chop a breath in half. That sounds even worse than an So you'll know that it's a breath when you see these gentle hills like there and there. They're breaths. Listen carefully. Did you hear that? That was me inhaling. And you don't want to cut that in the middle and have half an inhalation. So in this case, I had already had a breath and had started talking when I needed to get rid of the There you go. So you'll learn to visually recognize where these cues are, and it'll help you to keep things looking very natural. So
Axford and Catherine McChinney, who talked to me for so long and with so much passion and interest that the meeting that was scheduled for an hour went for 2.5. So this is the second half of our meeting.
All right. Breath.
I haven't edited much of it out at all, just a couple of
People don't care about whether or not I've edited anything out, so I'm cutting that whole thing.
If you haven't seen the first video, I'd recommend that you do.
All right, now this is an interesting difference. That first cut, I was trying to make it sound like it was all in one sentence, natural sounding. In this cut, I'm changing clauses. I'm going from talking about whatever I was talking about to talking about something completely different. Now, you would think that maybe, oh, well, then you leave a bigger gap, right? No, I don't. That is certainly one way that you can do it, a kind of conversational style. I prefer the more rapid fire of the signal that I've moved from one clause to another is that I don't stop for a breath. I'm immediately into the next thing. You'll see what this sounds like. So what I'm going to do is hit the V key, so I'm back to the selection tool, click on that piece, and then Command Q to get rid of the middle bit. By the way, if you do that by accident and accidentally erase the whole thing that you just did, your get out of jail free card is always Command Z. That brings it right back. Whatever it was you just did, Command Z undoes it. All right? You'll definitely want to remember that. So Command Q to get rid of it. Let's see.
Second half of our meeting. If you haven't seen the first video, I'd recommend that you do.
Now that is a bumpy landing there. It's, see how my head changes position about it. Now that's not too bad, but I try at the beginning and end of a sentence when I'm recording a video to keep my head still. That's just something that comes with years of doing this. You know that if you have to edit something in that gap, you don't want your head to be moving while you're doing it. And it is moving here. So I think what I might do is apply a smoothing transition that will blend me into me in such a way that that jerky movement will disappear. There are several ways you can do it, but this is probably the easiest. So I hover over the gap between the two, right click and hit Apply Default Transition. Now, when you first start using Premiere Pro, these default transitions are actually quite long, and they have a long bleed from one audio to the other. It's a constant volume bleed, as they call it, where the sound, or you can't see my fingers, I'm doing hand signals here. The sound is blended from one to the other, and it's a bit too long. I much prefer it to be short like this. So this will blend my video very quickly but seamlessly, and it'll make that jerky look go away. Watch.
Of our meeting. If you haven't seen the first,
yeah, it's still a bit yucky looking. Let me try to speed that up just a bit.
Of our meeting. If you haven't
that's
seen
better.
The first video,
so that's good enough. Let's move on.
Recommend that you do. We learn a little bit about Steve and Catherine, about why.
What I'm doing here is I am, without making it sound like I'm summarizing the last video, I'm going to summarize the last video just in a conversational way. I'm going to let people know what was in the first one so that they'll understand why I have what I have in the second one. So I'm just going over what we heard before and getting ready to tell people what they're going to hear next.
This is the second half of our meeting. If you haven't seen the first video, I recommend that you do. We learn a little bit about Steve and Catherine, about why they love Australia and they're part of it so much. We learn about the different kinds of mushrooms that they find in Australia and we find elsewhere. And we talked about equipment and the way that...
oh, terrible.
We spent a little bit of time talking about Steve's equipment, and we went over a few of the technical issues regarding how he focus stacks in the field and the work he does in the studio. So in this section, we're going to learn a lot more about Steve. We're going to learn about Steve from before the time of Mushroom, the pre-Mushroom Steve, you could say.
So we'll learn a little bit about his life and his photography before that. And then we will dive into his amazing collection of photographs. We're also going to see some cool video. And yeah, this is going to be I thoroughly enjoyed the first half of this interview, but the second half I think is better. I think everybody was getting a little bit warmed up, and the conversation was lively, and the topics were interesting. So I encourage you to settle back and relax and enjoy this conversation, because I certainly did. And okay, I like the ending. But I think I'm going to be stuck with a lot of ums. So I'm going to go back and listen to the first piece. Now I may use part from one and a part from the other, but let me just listen to it again. If you haven't seen the first video, I'd recommend that you do. We learn a little bit about Steve and Catherine, about why they love Australia and they're part of it so much. We learn about the different kinds of mushrooms that they find in Australia and we find elsewhere. And we talked about... Okay, this is where we talked about the equipment, but... the way that... yeah, no, that's terrible. So what I'm going to do is, I have a choice. Seeing as this is what I want to lose, I can lose it before the breath or after the breath. Well, nobody keeps track of your breaths, so there's absolutely no reason to leave a breath in. I do leave all my natural breaths in, because I think it gives a cadence to your vocal presentation, so people know to expect the pauses that come with your breathing. But in video it's different, and time is everything. So I think what I'm going to do is hit C for cut, and cut my video right there. We find elsewhere. So it's the end of talking about where the mushrooms are found, and we can get straight on to the next idea. We spent a little bit of time talking. Yep. So that can be right close to the first word. There we go. Then hit V, select that section, Command Q, and it's gone. And then I don't care how sure you are of the edit being a good one, you go back and listen to it. That's the last thing you do after you hit that Command Q. Go back and... Australia, and we find elsewhere. We spent a little bit of time talking about Steve's equipment, and we went over a few of the technical issues. Okay, that issues has got to go. The technical issues. You know, that's supposed to be technical issues, just the two words. Technical. One trick that I use is, when you have a word that ends with a kind of sloping away sound at the end of it, as some letters will give you, it's hard to know exactly where to put your cut mark. So trust your ears. Just keep your finger hovered over the space bar, and when your brain says that word is finished, pop the space bar, and that will be where your cut needs to go. A few of the technical. Okay, that's the end of technical and the beginning of my breath. I'm going to back it up till can you hear that? Let me, well, I don't think there's any way I can turn it up. If you listen very carefully, you can hear me breathing. It's only a fraction of a second of me breathing, but I want to back it up until that breathing stops. Okay, that was the quietest one. That was the first one. That's the end of my word and the beginning of my breath. So I'm going to put a cut right there. I forgot what I was trying to... Oh, I was trying to cut out this issue. Issue. So let's go with just issue instead of issue. Issues. Like that. So I'm going to put it right in the crotch of that split. Then the same thing, hit V and then highlight it and Command Q. Then check it.
few of the technical issues regarding how he focus stacks in the field and
we don't need the do we? No.
the work he does in this.
I recognized that I was going to get rid of that after I said that I was aware of it, so I made sure that this last part of the sentence would run on naturally from this, and it does. So I'm going to put my cut right at the beginning of this last this and right before the like so. And the same thing, Command Q to get rid of it, and then check it.
The field and the work he does in the studio. So in this section, we're going to learn a lot more about Steve. We're going to learn about Steve from before the time of Mushroom, the pre-Mushroom.
Bad habit, bad habit.
Mushroom.
C for cut, then I'm going to put the cut right up after the last sibilant of that word, and then we're going to get rid of the hesitation noise and go straight to the word and try that. All right.
Before the time of Mushroom, the pre-Mushroom Steve, you could say. So we'll learn a little bit about his life and his photography before that. And then we will dive into his amazing collection of photographs. We're also going to see some cool video. And yeah, this is going to be...
all right. Obviously, we're going to lose that whole rambling blob of wasted breath.
Of photographs. We're also going to see some cool video.
I don't like the way I end that video on an up inflection. Let's see. I'm going to put a cut there anyway because nothing to the right of that is getting kept. Let's see what the next piece sounds like after I regrouped.
I thoroughly enjoyed the first half of this interview, but the second half I think is better. I think everybody was getting a little bit warmed up, and the conversation was lively, and the topics were interesting. So I encourage you to settle back and relax and enjoy this conversation, because I certainly did. And
all right, I don't really like that at all.
So I encourage you to pull up a
but I'm stuck with it.
And sit back and relax and enjoy the conversation. I certainly did.
That's even worse. I know that one's worse than the one before it, so I would normally just cut this out, but I'll remember. You don't want to get too far ahead of where you are. You want to make these decisions as you go. Let's listen to the next one. These are just retakes.
So I encourage you to pour yourself a nice hot cup of tea and get in a comfortable chair, sit back and enjoy the conversation, which I certainly did. I'll be back at the end with a little bit of information and...
terrible. Just terrible. I should have written a script for this.
I'll come back at the end to give you a little bit of information about where you can find all of Steve's work and all of his social media contacts and all that. It's going to be in the program notes, but I'll still come back and remind you of that. So without any further ado, let's get back to our conversation with Stephen and Catherine.
Well, that last bit's okay. That was something falling over behind me, and it gave me the...
Hello everybody, this is Alan, and welcome to the second part, the second half of the Steve Axford interview. This is a discussion that I had with Stephen Axford and his partner, Catherine Machiniak, in Australia a week ago. I wasn't in Australia. I wish I was, to be honest. It really looks like a fantastic place. And the conversation last time was great. We talked to Steve and Catherine, and we learned a little bit about them, their home, their country. And then we learned about what they like to photograph, the mushrooms in the forests around them, and all over Australia and Asia for that matter. We talked about the 4 different kinds of fungus, what they mean to nature and what they mean to us. and went into a little bit of detail about Steve's equipment and how he uses it in the field, and a little bit about how he uses it in the studio. So that's all in the first installment. In this second half, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the life of Steve Axford, photographer, and we're going to go back to the pre-mushroom days and see what he was up to back then. He's got a lot of fantastic photographs to share with us. And then we're going to get into the meat of our talk, which is just plain old showing off fantastic photographs of mushrooms. That's the bit you've been waiting for, and it'll be well worth it. We've got a lot of very beautiful photographs to show you, and some video too. So without any further ado, let's get back to the conversation with Steve and Catherine.
Well, this is interesting that this would happen on the video that I'm using as an example, because I had forgotten that I did a whole take of this. Hang on, yeah, I'd forgotten I'd done a whole retake of the whole thing, and that I'd got it just about perfect from start to finish, because I've already done half an hour of editing to this point, which is something that I should have checked for. I really should. I should have at least looked at the timeline that I just imported and asked myself, well, what's this big chunk at the end, and check that out. So yeah, that's a bit embarrassing that I'd go to so much trouble. So the question is, would you keep this, the one you worked on, or would you keep the second one? Well, at this point, the first one is probably as good as the second one, but it may have some artifact from all those cuts in it. So let's go back and listen to them both again and decide which one we want to keep, and then just get over it and move on. This is the kind of thing that will drive me crazy for having wasted all this time. But let me see what this sounds like at the end. The photographs. We're also going to see some cool video, and yeah, this is going to be, yeah. Okay. I thoroughly enjoyed the first half of this interview, but the second half I think is better. I think everybody was getting a little bit warmed up, and the conversation was lively, and the topics were interesting. So I encourage you to settle back and relax and enjoy this conversation, because I certainly did. And I'll come back at the end to give you a little bit of information. Hello everybody, this is Alan, and welcome to the second part, the second half of the Steve Axford interview. This is a discussion that I had with Stephen Axford and his partner Catherine Machiniak in Australia a week ago. I wasn't in Australia. I wish I was, to be honest. It really looks like a fantastic place. And the conversation last time was great. We talked to Steve and Catherine, and we learned a little bit about them, their home, their country. And then we learned about what they like to photograph, the mushrooms in the forests around them, and all over Australia and Asia for that matter. We talked about the 4 different kinds of fungus and what they mean to nature and what they mean to us. And went into a little bit of detail about Steve's equipment and how he uses it in the field, and a little bit about how he uses it in the studio. So that's all in the first installment. In this second half, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the life of Steve Axford, photographer, and we're going to go back to the pre-mushroom days and see what he was up to back then. He's got a lot of fantastic photographs to share with us. And then we're going to get into the meat of our talk, which is just plain old showing off fantastic photographs of mushrooms. That's the bit you've been waiting for, and it'll be well worth it. We've got a lot of
very beautiful photographs to show you and some video too. So without any further ado, let's get back to the conversation with Steve and Catherine.
Okay, so I decided there that the first half of this is actually better. The first part of the first half is better, and the second half of the second bit is better. So I'm going to cut this and keep the first half that I've already edited, or parts of it. You'll see what I mean. Sometimes it helps to shrink down your timeline enough to see the actual physical layout of it, so you get a good idea of times this way, and what will be quicker and what will be shorter. You can see this very compressed area as the first edit that we did. But I think what I'm going to do is keep this, and then at the break go straight on to the last part of this. To the pre-mushroom days. It'll be well worth it. We've got a lot of very beautiful photographs to show you and some video too. So without any further ado, that has got to go, that first bit of hesitation. Let me find it. So without, jeez, and some video too. All right, so we can cut that breath out, and so without, all I want is the so and the without. Without, so and now we're going to end that so into the without. I mean, it has to be one flowing sound. Without, but the without is on an upstroke here. The w gets it increases in volume. So what we can do is, I want to pick the point at in the dropping volume at the end of my so to pick up at exactly the same volume as the next word, so that there isn't a gap or a hesitation. So I'm using the visual cues of the slope, if that makes any sense. Let's see what it sounds like. I think that got it. So this is what we're getting rid of. Command Q to excise it. So without any further, yeah, that works fine. And that got rid of all of that stuff. And we'll get rid of the breath too. Command Q. All right, so listening to that, show you and some video too. So without any further ado, let's get back to the conversation with Steve and Catherine. Okay, I'm super happy with that. And I don't know what comes to the right of this. I don't remember recording anything else, and I'm not going to listen to it right now. So let's find out where we need to drop this in. Hello everybody, this is Alan, and welcome to the second part, the second half of the Steve Axford interview. This is a discussion that I had with Stephen Axford and his partner, Catherine Machiniak, in Australia a week ago. I wasn't in Australia. I wish I was, to be honest. It really looks like a fantastic place. And the conversation last time was great. We talked to Steve and Catherine, and we learned a little bit about them, their home, their country. And then we learned about what they like to photograph, the mushrooms in the forests. Okay, it's about there that I want to do the switch. About why they love Australia and they're part of it so much. We learn about the different kinds of mushrooms that they find in Australia and we find elsewhere. We spent a little bit of time talking about Steve's equipment, and we went over a few of the technical issues regarding how he focus stacks in the field and the work he does in the studio. So in this section, we're going to learn a lot more about Steve. We're going to learn about Steve from before the time of mushroom. Okay, I don't like this section here, and I do like it on the other one. So this is probably where I'm going to make the change, where we're talking about Steve's past studio. So in this section, and there's a nice breath there.
So
a nice breath that I don't need, so I can take it out. So we're going to go to the in this section now, so I don't get lost. Here's a trick. I'm going to position my line over the point at which I made the cut and hit M, and it'll put a marker on the timeline. Now that means nothing to anybody except to me, and I'll just use it to come back here quickly in a minute. So it's...
And then we learn about what they like to photograph, the mushrooms in the forests around them, and all over Australia and Asia for that matter. We talked about the 4 different kinds of fungus and what they mean to nature and what they mean to us, and went into a little bit of detail about Steve's equipment and how he uses it in the field, and a little bit about how he uses it in the studio. So that's all in the first installment. In this second half...
Yeah. By the way, if it sounds like I'm listening to a lot of this, I find it makes for a better edit if I stay on top of the flow and the tone of my voice. And to get that, I really need to kind of listen to each sentence as it leads up to where I'm thinking of making a cut. You'll see what I mean as you start doing this. All right, so let's see what that sounds like.
This second half.
Okay, in this second half. So let's go back to my marker right there. I'd never have found it.
So in this section...
It's a pretty clean jump. Is there anything in this part that I want to keep?
We're going to learn a lot more about Steve. We're going to learn about Steve from before the time of mushroom, the pre-mushroom Steve, you could say. So we'll learn a little bit about his life and his photography before that. And then we will dive into his amazing collection of photographs. We're also going to see some cool video. And yeah, this is going to be...
All right, so I simply don't need that. Except if I'm not careful, I'm going to excise all of this too. I definitely don't want to do that. So let me put another cut right there. And I don't want that. I don't like that. So I'm not going to ripple delete that because I don't want to collapse it. I'm going to bring the other clip back to here. So I'm just going to hit delete and it'll leave a gap. This was not stuff I wanted.
I enjoyed the first half of this interview, but...
Okay, so I think I can just go and bring over the whole last piece, which should start here.
In this second half, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the life of Steve Axford, photographer, and we're going to go back to the pre-mushroom days and see what he was up to back then. So a lot of fantastic photographs to share with us. And then we're going to get into the meat of our talk, which is just plain old showing off fantastic photographs of mushrooms. That's the bit you've been waiting for, and it'll be well worth it. We've got a lot of very beautiful photographs to show you, and some video too. So without any further ado, let's get back to the conversation with Steve and Catherine.
Okay, I'm happy with that. Now, this is all, it's 3 clips, but I want to treat it as one. So I'm going to hit V, and then I'm going to drag a box around those 3. Now, let me double check that this is going to fit in the gap. It might not, actually. So I'm going to hit A, and then I'm going to select everything and move it to the right to make that gap a bit bigger. Yeah, that'll make me more comfortable. And then let me double check that I know where I am here. Go back to V.
In this second part.
Yeah, okay. And that's where it ends. So click away from the timeline to clear the selection that you have currently, and then just draw the box around those 3 clips. Now, when I drag these, I can drag them just straight down the timeline as a unit, just by clicking on any one of them. So that's what I'm going to do, move all 3 of them, And that's what the magnet does, is it allows that to snap into place. Saves you a lot of fiddling around. So let's now listen to the new transition. This should be about right. There.
How he focus stacks in the field and the work he does in the studio. In this second half, we're going to dive
much better.
deeper into the life of
Okay.
Steve Axford. Very beautiful photographs to show you, and some video too. So without any further ado, let's get back to the conversation with Steve.
Okay, the only thing I didn't like is this transition.
So
yeah, another head jerk. I don't like putting one of these scene transitions in when there's a tailing off word. It works much better when a word goes to a word. That will make more sense when I show you one. Let's see. Yeah, that 2 is dragged out. Maybe the 2 ends a bit sooner. It does. That 2 ends right there. So I can actually move my cut to about there, remove this section, and then add a default transition between these 2 and make it very short, shorter than it is. Let's try that.
And some video too. So without any further ado, let's get back to the conversation with Steve and Catherine.
Okay, that's perfect. So that's it. That is 1 minute and 16 seconds of video, and it is 8:06, and we started at 6:30, an hour and a half. Okay. Did you realize that this was this involved? Or are you all video editors and you're just looking for a good laugh? Let's see what it is before I throw it away.
I thoroughly enjoyed the first half of this interview.
Okay, we've already dealt with that part.
I'll come back at the end to give you a little bit of information. Hello everybody, this is Alan.
Okay, this is the stuff. We're not going to use any of this, so I will delete that. Let's see what this stuff is.
A quick word before we move on. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. You've been wonderful.
Oh, I forgot to put this
in. I
in.
appreciate everything you're doing to make conversations like this one possible, and as well as everything else you're doing. And thank you also to everybody else who's not a Patreon supporter but has chosen to support my work in other ways, be it through a contribution or through the type of astonishing work that Bud Parrott did with us last night in the Photoshop.
Falling all over myself there.
So my thank you to my Patreon supporters also includes a huge thank you to everybody who supports me and helps me in other ways. This would simply not be possible without your assistance, so it is truly appreciated. Because of that, I can do this, and this is what I live for. Let's get back to our conversation where we left it. I kind of cut it off rather abruptly. We were just getting into a discussion of parasitic fungi, I believe, or maybe we were close to wrapping that up, but that's about where we were. We're going to pick it up right where we left it off and go right through to the finish. I'll be back as soon as we get done with a little bit of information about where you can find Steve's stuff. Until then, enjoy the conversation. I'll be back at the end to share some links with you so that you can follow up on Steve and Catherine and learn more about what they're up to. Let's get back to the conversation.
I actually like this better than the other. So I may just drop this Patreon thank you.
So my thank you to my Patreon supporters also.
Okay, I'm going to keep parts of each of these. I'll just do this quickly as
A quick word before we move on. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. You've been wonderful, and I really do appreciate everything you're doing to make conversations like this one possible, and as well as everything else you're doing. And thank you also to everybody else who's not a...
All right. That's the end of that thank you, and then I want to pick it up where I add to the thank you here. I make this odd lip smacking sound before I start a sentence sometimes, and I try to cut that out whenever possible. Let's get rid of this so that I'm not tempted to use it.
So my thank you to my Patreon supporters also includes a huge thank you to everybody who supports me and helps me in other ways. This would simply not be possible without your assistance, so it is truly appreciated. Because of that, I can do this, and this is what I live for.
Okay, I don't want to make anybody cry. It's true, but...
Let's get back to our conversation where we left it. I kind of cut it off rather abruptly. We were just getting into a discussion of parasitic fungi, I believe, or maybe we were close to wrapping that up, but that's about where we were. We're going to pick it up right where we left it off and go right through to the finish. I'll be back as soon as we get done with a little bit of information about where you can find Steve's stuff. Until then, enjoy the conversation. I'll be back at the end to share some links with you so that you can follow up on Steve and Catherine and learn more about what they're up to. Let's get back to the conversation.
I don't think this is important. I mean, my viewers will know that I'll come back at the end if there's any information I need to give them. So
let's get back to Stephen.
I kind of liked, I think I want to drop this Patreon thank you a little earlier in the previous clip, but leave it otherwise intact. So I'm going to just double check my start and finish.
Move on. Thank you to my Patreon.
Okay.
Everything else you're doing. So my thank you to my Patreon supporters also includes a huge thank you.
We know that I'm talking about my Patreon supporters, so I don't need to repeat that. That sounds redundant. There's also a funny sound here at the beginning. I think I'm going to pull that out and just make it one shorter clause.
So my thank you to my Patreon supporters.
So my thank you also should be fine.
So my thank you to my Patreon supporters also includes a huge... So my thank you to my Patreon.
Yeah, this is the end of my thank you.
Patreon supporters also
and then straight into also. Let's see what that sounds like. My thank you also.
So my thank you also includes a huge thank you to everybody who supports me and helps me in other ways. This would simply not be possible without your assistance, so it is truly appreciated. Let's get back.
Okay, I think that stands alone better by itself. So this is the piece that I need to drop in. We can get rid of that. And I'm not going to get rid of this until I'm sure I'm not going to use it. I'm just going to move it out of the way. Now let me see where I'm going to put this.
And the work he does in the studio. In this second half, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the life of them. Then we're going to get into the meat of our talk, which is just plain old showing off fantastic photographs of mushrooms. That's the bit you've been waiting for, and it'll be well worth it. We've got a lot of very beautiful photographs to show you and some video too. So without any further ado, let's get back.
Okay, so unfortunately it's right where I built that transition.
So without any further ado,
too bad. It's got to go. So I'm going to move this out of the way, make plenty of room, and then pull this Patreon clip in, which should just fit. There it is. Now, I will tell you this. If you take a course in using Premiere Pro, they'll show you some keystrokes that you could have used to do all that without you having to drag stuff around. There are other editing tools that honestly I've just never learned because I don't seem to need them. I just do it this way, and I know some of what I do is wrong, and a real editor would be freaking out watching me do it, but you know, it works and the end product sounds good. So let's see if these two go together.
Truly appreciate it.
Nice finish to that one, and that's straight into the so, I think, with this. Let's see.
Possibly without your assistance, so it is truly appreciated. So without any further ado, let's get back to the conversation with Steve and Catherine.
Okay, that's us finished with the intro. Now, I need to decide what to do with this transition from the last video to this one. And to do that, I just need to listen to it.
Well, there's one thing you cannot argue with, and that is your photographs are breathtaking. So however you're getting them, you're doing it right. So
yeah, we only do a little bit of that because, quite honestly, they take too long. I can go out into the bush and, you know, one stack. At best, it might only take 5 or 10 minutes, and I'll move on to another one. I've done in China, I think I've done 100 photographs in a day.
There's more to the technique than just the focus stacking.
Well, then it's a matter of getting the lighting right. So there'll be I'll have a stick. It's probably a small stick that these mushrooms are growing on. I need to get a dark background, quite a lot darker than the mushroom preferably, and I need to get lighting above and below on the mushroom. So
This is a nice clip. You're probably going to pick up on the fact that Steve has a much slower cadence of delivery than Catherine does. And that makes syncing them up, well, not syncing them, I mean, we're not trying to sync anything here, but making the conversation sound natural and flowing between the two of them is quite challenging. And yeah, and then there's my voice on top of that, because I tend to talk in rushes, and so finding the right places to transition between my questions and his answers was difficult. But I love that piece with the mushroom. By the way, let me show you how I did that. This is a single photograph. This is not a video. Let me see if I can find the photograph, and I'll show you, because this is interesting how I took a photograph that is not in and of itself particularly fascinating. It's absolutely gorgeous, but they're talking about a technique for getting the light above and below the subject, and getting a black background, and getting the context of the stick and everything in focus, which all sounds great. But I wanted to kind of show that as it happened. So I animated the photograph, which I normally don't do with other people's photographs unless I've used them previously, and I have used this one in the chapter before this. So what I've done is I've started with let me show you. There's another window that I haven't shown you yet. The effects control window is up here. When you have a a clip or part of a clip highlighted, the information about the clip will show up here on the left. So when I highlight the photograph, you can see a few important things. You can see the video geometry, which is all you're going to see here because there is no audio associated with a photograph. And the things that are important are the position, the scale, the rotation, and the masks. There are no masks in this shot, but what this shows you, if you look closely, is you see these little triangular looking dot things here. That is where I moved the timeline back to the beginning, and right at the beginning I put a keyframe down here. And that a keyframe is like this. It's a punctuation mark between the beginning and the end of an event. In this case, the event is two events. The first event is the position. I put in a keyframe, and then I put in another keyframe, and between the two I changed the position of the photograph. So what is going to happen is, between the keyframes, it is going to move from position A to position B, then it'll stop. And that is what the keyframes do. It tells the video where to start what you're getting ready to do and then where to stop it. And you can make it as complicated as you like. And I've done the same with the scale. The scale goes from, watch the number here for the scale. As I move the timeline, the scale's getting smaller and smaller until it gets to here when it stops. And that is kind of reverse engineering what I do all the time with photographs. Is sometimes just having a photograph ever so slightly change size makes it more arresting. Let me give you an example. I mean, we're not gonna, let me just find a gap. Now here's a gap. Let me grab a picture. This is one that nobody's seen yet. It's an absolutely stunning mushroom too. First of all, this is only about 4 seconds worth of, 4.5 seconds worth of picture. That might be enough in some instances, but it's not going to be enough for what I'm going to show you. And in this type of video where we're talking about photographs, if you do watch my channel, you know I do a photography competition every month. And after it, I do a video to talk about the winners. And because that's the whole video is these photographs, they'll be up for minutes at a time. So I will frequently just drag the photograph out to make it longer in time. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to animate this one to make it more interesting. First thing you'll notice is it's bigger than the frame. The picture is. Well, that's because it was taken on a full frame camera and it is a big picture. Our frame is 1080p, is the video resolution we're shooting at. Excuse me, which means a full frame photograph is way too big to fit in that space. So what I'm going to do is highlight it and then go to scale, and I'm going to drop the scale back until the picture just fills the frame at 1080p. Now we've got the whole picture in there. And you often have to do that. Your iPhone photographs are going to be too big for these frames. So with the full size, how can I make this more interesting while talking is going on? This is the way it looks right now. When I hit play, nothing changes. The picture just sits there, and the talking goes on in the background, which is fine. And most of the time that's going to be good enough. But let's try to make it a bit more interesting. Maybe we can pull the camera in, and then as we get closer, sweep around to these smaller mushrooms. Maybe that would be interesting. Probably not, but this is just an example. So let's go back to the beginning, the first frame of the picture, and let's set a keyframe there. Now, we can set a keyframe by by punching the little keyframe buttons, but there aren't any. They haven't shown up here. They haven't shown up because we haven't selected any of these conditions to change. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change both the position and the scale. So if I click on position and scale, it adds a keyframe for each of them. That says, okay, you're going to do something with the position and something with the scale, and it starts here. That's what the keyframe is telling me. So what we now have to do is decide where this effect of whatever kind it is going to end. Let's say we're going to have the effect go all the way to the end of the clip. So that will be the end, and we'll put a keyframe there. That says whatever it is we're doing now finishes. So what are we going to do in the interim? Well, let's try increasing the scale. So by the time we get to the end, the scale now needs to be, let's say, that much bigger. But we also want to be, say, looking at this mushroom. So let's also change I'm sliding it left by dropping the x-axis number. I'm just clicking on it and dragging it. You could write the numbers in too. I don't want to go so far that the thing's out of frame, but I know I'm getting ready to, well, no, it's already enlarged. So I'm going to stop it there as far as I can go. And then maybe, I don't know, move it down a little bit. No, let's move it up a little bit. There. I'm just making up moves here because I want to show you something else. So that's the move. Now if we go back to the beginning and hit play, the camera just kind of slides over the picture, and it changes the way you look at the picture. It'll hold your interest without you realizing it, just because it changes the way the picture looks. Now, one thing you might notice is that the moves there were kind of sudden. The picture's there and then it's moving. There are a couple of tricks you can do to smooth that out. My favorite is, especially at the end. Let me show you what it looks like at the end, the way it is. It just moves, 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 same speed, and then it stops and is gone. There's a thing we can do if we highlight just drag a box around the keyframes and then right click them. There's a thing called temporal interpolation, which allows us to change the way the rate of change in the change that, let me try to say that sentence with only one change word in it. It allows us to change the acceleration or the deceleration at the beginning or the end of a section so that it smooths it out. You know what a Bezier curve is? It's where changes happen gradually and over a period of fractions of a second. Well, here, by adding what's called an ease in, it will ease in the transition from the steady movement to slowing it down at the end. That's all I'm trying to say, not very clearly. You can do it at the beginning as well using an ease out, but we're going to use the ease in just to show you what it looks like. So it's moving and then it starts to slow down at the end, and then it just eases to a complete stop. And that's a beautiful trick to have up your sleeve. Let me move one last thing, don't want to beat this to death, but let me move the position sliders closer together so that you can see what the ease in looks like. So this is without it. It just kind of jerks the movement. All right, so let's click that. Temporal interpolation, ease out. Now look at what it does. It gradually increases the movement, gets it to speed, and then slows it down again. So it's a wonderful way to make any kind of, be it a a photograph or a chart or anything that you're putting on the board that you want to be interesting, this allows you to make it more dynamic, kind of more cinematic, I guess you could say, or probably not. That's not the right word. So I need to decide then where I want to put this cut, and I think I want to include this bit with the photograph.
I think I've done 100 photographs in a day.
There's more to the technique than just...
The way Catherine comes in and says there's more to the technique was a kind of a cut that I did to create a sense of contrast between what Stephen had just finished saying. We were kind of changing subjects and we were bringing it on to talking about technique, and it just would be a perfect place for us to pick up, because it's we don't want to pick up in the middle of a thought or even in the middle of a topic. We want to pick up the conversation at a point that will stand alone. So if you didn't see the first half of the video, you wouldn't be lost at this point. The only problem is she starts out by referring to something she said earlier.
There's more to the technique than just the focus stacking.
Well, then it's a matter of getting the lighting right. So,
you know, we could just make the cut at it's a matter of getting the lighting right, because you could say that about any photography, and maybe move this picture over to the beginning. Let's see what the thought goes on to develop into.
it's a matter of getting the lighting right. So there'll be I'll have a stick. It's probably a small stick that these mushrooms are growing on. I need to get a dark background, quite a lot darker than the mushroom preferably, and I need to get lighting above and below on the mushroom. So I'll spend, first thing you've got to find the mushroom, then you've got to find a spot to photograph it. Now some mushrooms are growing in the ground, so you can't move them, so you've got to do the best you can with what you've got and you show.
All right, I don't like the way you don't want to keep the camera on the same person for too long, and you don't want, if you're not breaking it up with something to hold the interest of the viewer, then you tend to lose people. And then I don't like the way Catherine leans forward to the computer at that point. I mean, there's no problem with her doing that. It's just it breaks your concentration on the speaker. So what I might do is actually, after we come out of this photograph, instead of having them both in view, will be for me to actually put a cut into the video right before that. So, oh, that's my video. I just put a cut into the video of me. The last thing I'm going to do, by the way, in a second, is show you how to bring in all 4 of these tracks and get them synchronized. But before that, let's finish this thought. So I'm going to undo that cut because I won't know why I put it there otherwise. And this is their video. My video's off. See how the line is all the way at the bottom? That's not showing. If that line was up, then you'd be looking at me looking at them, and you don't want to do that. So we'll turn me off again. Now, if I put a cut back here, then when we come back on, I could actually have the camera soloing on Steve. So let me try that. So I'm going to use the same exact settings I was using before, but notice there's audio with this one too now. So what I'll do is I will change the position by moving Steve to the center a little bit. I'll change the scale by making him bigger. I'll move him down and then a bit further to the right. About like that. Now I can't because the edge of the frame is there. So what we could do is maybe enlarge it a little bit more. Wouldn't want to get much more than that. Let's see what that looks like when he talks.
And I need to get lighting above and below on the mushroom. So I'll spend, first thing you've got to find the mushroom, then you've got to find a spot to photograph it. Now some mushrooms are growing in the ground, so you can't move them. So you've got to do the best you can with what you've got. Maybe you shade the area with an umbrella.
I could probably cut back to them both right when he turns to look at her. See,
do the best you can with what you've got. Maybe
right now.
The area with an umbrella.
You're right. When he turns his head would be the ideal time to transition back to the two of them. Now what I could do is just dolly the camera back. Let's try that. That's where
What you've got, maybe.
As he's starting that sentence, I'll put a keyframe by going up here to the where we were before, I'm going to change both the position and the scale. So I'll click on both of those stopwatches. That drops the keyframe. Then I want the keyframe to be, I want the transition to be finished by the time he's looking at her. Right there. So by the time he starts to turn his head, I want to have them both in view. So what I'll do is I will change the scale back to big enough for both of them, swing it back over to what he's looking at, because your brain wants to see where his eyes are going. And then we're going to need to move the, oh no, this is let me move that to where I was. I don't know, I didn't realize I pulled it so low. That's going to look weird. That's going to move upward as we go through that transition. Let me see. I don't know what I did there. Maybe I have a second. How does it get back down there, I wonder? It's like I have two moves there. I don't know what I did. I think I added a second keyframe there by mistake. Let's get rid of both of them and start over. I just hit delete when they were lit up. So this will be where we're going to, and I like the timing of it. So with that there, let me change the scale again to both of them, move the whole thing to the left and up to there. Okay, so that's the move that I want to have. But I want it to be smooth. I want it to be smooth out and smooth in. So I'm going to temporal interpolation, ease out, and then ease into the new position, like so. And then we can have it just hold that position until the end of the frame, which is right here, actually when a new mushroom comes on. So let's see what that looks like.
With what you've got, maybe you shade the area with an umbrella we use quite often.
Great.
Yeah, so if you look at the Cortinari.
Okay, so the effect there is that we're kind of acting like a real observer would act with the camera. In other words, when we sense that he's getting ready to pull Catherine back into the conversation, we're already there. We're already positioned to witness that, rather than waiting for her to speak and wonder why, who's that talking? We can't see her, she's off screen. Yeah, that works pretty well. Now, I told you I was going to, we're not going to, this is actually slow even for normal editing, but normally I'm doing this by myself, and I'm not talking as much. So I would have made better progress than this, but it's still pretty picky stuff, especially if you go into as much detail with this as I tend to. So what we have to do now is we've got the end of their footage. This is their footage, the Axford video and the Axford audio. My video ran out at the end of this, and they have a whole nother piece of video to put in. So what I need to do is bring in all the assets for the rest of the video, as far as the video and sound go, and get them synchronized so that I can stop thinking about that and just worry about the editing. So to do that, I need to figure out where things start and where they end. So for their video with audio running,
we should turn the camera around and we'll show you where we live.
okay, this is actually two soundtracks. There's no camera still running at this point because all of the video ran out. So that's all going to be on the second video that I bring in. Now, I may bring the audio back in fresh so that I can get it synchronized. But what we'll do is, to make this transition, is I'm going to bring in everything new, all the new footage for this half of the interview. I'm going to bring it in and set it over here and see where things start and where they end. And then we'll decide how much of this to keep. So to do that, I've got to go, I first of all have to decide, well, who do I want, who's most important in this? It's my guests. They have to be the center of my timeline because everything keys off what they do. So let me go to the Axford video and look for the last section, the last segment. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was this one. We're going to go back up to the source and look at it again. I think this is me looking at the garden. Yeah. So this is the correct clip. So we're going to use this as the centerpiece for everything else in this sequence. So I'm going to bring the whole thing down and drop it in the timeline like so. It's pretty long. It's another hour of video. And if it just took us 90 minutes to make a minute and a half of video, 60 times 90, it's going to be a long time. It's going to be a long time to finish editing this. This will be several more videos. All right, let me get their audio in and let's get it synced up. So this is the second part of the audio, and I have no idea where it fits in relation to this. Let's see what they're saying at the start.
That one is
Okay, this is actually a little bit later on in this, so we are going to need that piece of video. I mean, that piece of audio that's left behind. So I'm going to bring the whole clip in and drop it down here. Whoops. Yeah, that probably fits there, which means this piece of audio fits in here. And I can already see we're not going to have enough audio. All right, not to worry. Let's sync these up. So these are going to have to go together. I don't know where that is, but we're going to right click with them all hooked together and hit synchronize, and we're going to synchronize off track 1. So the computer, the longer the clip, the longer this takes. It has to check multiple points looking for how to line them up. This is why you never throw away the soundtrack that you get from your camera, because that is a kind of like a click track. The noise that your camera is picking up will sync up perfectly with this, so you can sync your good audio with your camera's audio and then throw the camera audio away, which is basically what we just did here. Now we need to find out, I don't want to take this audio and drag it down here, because I don't know what's connected to it up top. So what I might do is go to the end of the last audio clip. They only sent me 2 audio clips. They were both very long though. So maybe if I just take this piece, let me move the well, that's the thing we were just looking at. So let's put our start there. If you're on any piece of a timeline, the letters I and O are very important. I is in, and see if you can guess what O is. Correct. Out. So in means we've selected everything to the right of it, and out would be at the end. You don't need to put the out in because it's already picked everything. So let's take this piece of audio and drag it down. I'm not going to put it right on top of the other piece. Let's see if we can get that to sync up now. So we're going to click on the background to unselect everything, and then we're going to select these 3. And with a little bit of luck, this will sync up and they'll be touching or close to it. We'll see. So right click, synchronize. Off track 1. You'll be an expert editor at the end of this video, which is coming up in 15 minutes. I'm going to quit, and then I don't know if anybody's even watching. I haven't. I've got the. Oh, look at that! Look at that! That fit perfectly. So we're in business. Let's go ahead, and now as these are synchronized, we can actually unlink these 2 and link this by hitting shift and clicking on it, and also on that. So I shift clicked on both pieces of audio with the video track, and now I'm going to link them. Oh, it won't let you link two soundtracks to one video. So let's just use the big one. We're doing this so that we don't go out of sync and we don't have the audio and the video drift apart, as they can do. So on a right click and link, we'll just remember that this goes here, and I'll remember not to move the audio around. And we don't need this piece repeated because it's right there. We'll probably end up lining this up by sight. So the next thing we can do is get rid of the camera sound, like so. Then we can move the new sound into position, and we know that this abuts on that, so good. So that's the center piece for the rest of the video, and everything will be built around that. Now I need to bring in my audio and video and synchronize it too. And seeing as it gets messy synchronizing when you're on the outside of the tracks, just to make my life easier, I move the video up their video up a couple of clicks, and I move their audio down. You'll see why. You'll see why. It frees me up room to do what I need to do, which is bring in my video. So I go to Walls Video, right there. I need to find oh, we're back to using the original video, so that will be up here. I don't know where I left off. I'm gonna have to listen to. You can see the blue thing shows up when you've used the clip. So this is the first one that I haven't used. So this is it here. Let me.
What a lovely home you have.
Oh, that's when we're looking at their home. So that's during the transition. So that will be the video that I need next. So I'm going to drag the whole video section. Notice my sections are smaller. This was because my batteries don't last very long, so I was changing mine out frequently so I didn't lose any video. Now I need to get my video that sound that corresponds to that 17 minutes 42 seconds. Should be the next one that I haven't used. It's this one, 17:39. So I'm going to drag this clip from my Zoom recorder down to here. Then I am going to synchronize those three. I know this is complicated, and you know, the first few hundred times you do it, it's nerve-wracking. And I did it on a computer that was having troubles. When I learned how to do this, it was a nightmare. But this is a nice fast M1, and having an extra screen certainly helps. So they're now synchronized. Click off them, click on these two, unlink, click on the new sound, shift, click, and then right click and link. Click on the camera sound and delete it. Slide the two up. Now, I don't always do this, but I am going to do it this time because it's going to make life a lot easier if I can have all of my stuff on the timeline like all of theirs is. So I'm going to get the next clip as well. Double check. I want to listen to where it starts.
They are very affectionate.
Who is?
Cat number 2.
Cat number 2 is where it starts. I'm not going to butt them up against each other. I'm going to leave a little bit of room, and this is 25:19. So I look for the next one that. Now there isn't one 25:19. Okay, so maybe these are not in order, or maybe I left the thing running for two video clips. That's a possibility. Let's see how that starts. Cat number 2, it is. So we'll just drag this audio, and it's a lot longer, which makes me think that I hope that the next video will fit right there. Let's go ahead and sync up these. So I select those three, right click, synchronize, off track 1 as always. Should be just about right the way it is. It gets tricky when you're trying to synchronize more than one clip to a single video. All right, so we're good there. I can unlink these, link this, delete this, move this. Now, if there is another clip that fits right here, if the camera automatically started another clip, that'll be easy.
It's,
that's what there is literally a neuro, a brain thing that happens.
Okay, the problem is their video is blocking mine.
you're right about everything except the mushroom part. That's insects, is what that is. You're confusing it with. Yeah.
About 1 millimetre across.
Excellent.
So they're very small. I can't even see them.
All right, so it's just me looking at the camera. Let's see if we can find that clip. It should be the next one. Yeah, that's going to be it. So this should actually just slide right onto the timeline right here. Let me see. Oh no. Hang on, let me figure out what I'm doing wrong here.
Makes sense.
Makes sense.
I can't even see them. So probably won't be getting it.
Makes sense.
Okay, so I'm going to just drag the video because the audio, I already have the good audio down here, and I think it's going to sync up by just abutting to this video. Let's see if I'm in sync.
Well, they don't look like.
Well, let's get back to the photographs so we can finish these up and you can get back to it.
Okay, but it looks like I immediately run out of video again while I still have audio running.
Are these spores blowing out from under this mushroom?
Okay. Are these spores blowing out from under this mushroom?
Pink mushroom that we found on Lord Howe Island. So that blue mushroom only exists here, Lord Howe Island, and New Caledonia. They're the only places it's been documented. And so we were on Lord Howe.
This is number 7?
The blue, number 11.
Oh, 11.
Go to number 11. Since the paper was published, the gardeners there make a.
How did you get the spores to... I was just wondering, are these spores that you're shooting blowing out from under this mushroom?
I might not have video footage here. If my battery went dead here and I didn't know it, this could just be a hard cut. Now, as the interviewer, and because I have audio, that's not a problem. I can usually find a way to keep the flow going even if I don't have any video. All I'm doing is having the camera on me when I'm nodding or something. So not nodding off, nodding my head. Let's see what this next clip's about.
Well, I've got... So tell me about the other things that you guys do to spread the word about mushrooms and entertain people.
All right, that's kind of our last section. Sometimes what the Nikon camera does is split if it runs out of recording time, it will start a new section, but it'll start it in a separate video, and it uses a numbering system that separates it from the others. If that makes any sense. Probably not. 47, 48, 49, so no. I think I've just got dead airtime here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to worry about that later. Now what we need to do before we wrap up for tonight is synchronize this, or my video, with their video. And because I've been putting my video on the outside, I'm going to do that right now. By that I mean I'm going to put my video outside theirs, so that I know that we're always in the same positions. Same with my audio. Okay, then I'm going to put their audio inside, their video inside. Perfect. Now, they are synced and I am synced, but we're not synced together. So what we need to do is figure out, what is this? What is that little scrap?
Fungus. So this grows in symbiosis with the roots of the tree. So you can't, if you move.
See the mushrooms and nothing.
So Steve will put these in a spot, even when he's just photographing in the field. Well.
Alrighty, I have messed something up here. My video, no, their video, their audio, but this is my audio. Oh, I see what I did. Okay, not to worry, I didn't mess it up, I just didn't move it out of the way. And I don't understand where this gap came from. Unless, did I have 3 clips? If there was, forgive me being confused. This is a confusing part of, let me turn.
Each day I go down and check out the time lapses going on, so this keeps me.
Okay, so this is them, this is their audio only. Yes, this is their audio, and this is mine. Let me see what mine is doing. I could have sworn I had the video coming all the way to the beginning. Oh, I see what I've done. Somehow, no. You know, I'm just not exact. Well, this is their video, so it all starts right here. But where is my video? I know I had it. So.
Fungi, while they were doing one of their annual fungi field trips, photographically, so that they could use it in a field guide, and so.
Okay, what it is once I have the video and the audio in the timeline, my brain thinks that they're synced, and I'm trying to figure out why I have this big gap. It's pretty stupid. It's because I haven't synchronized them. Yeah, I know that you're nodding your head. What I need to do now is find some characteristics on the soundtrack which will show me roughly where these things line up. I'm doing this by eye. You can see that when I'm talking, I've got volume, so I'm talking here, I'm talking here, I'm talking here. The rest of the time, the people I'm interviewing are talking. So if I just look for patterns in my speech, I think that this will correspond to. Let me see.
How do I find these? And we say, well, and they live in the suburbs.
Do they put out enough light for you to see them just glowing in your garden?
Too many soundtracks going on all at once here, but let me see. What I can do is just listen to one track and then the other, and I'll know roughly where they go together. So we'll listen starting here where the video begins. But that is my video. There's a little clip of video here at the beginning that is me, and I don't know how that got there. What I may have to do is backtrack to find out what I've got fragments of video here butting up against one another. I think I realize what I've done. Okay, let me try something. Let me try moving this clip up here and then stretching it out. No, it won't. I don't know what this clip is even. Oh my goodness. That is so gorgeous. What a lovely home you have. Okay.
Forever interesting, you know, like we find out new stuff.
All right, so
If you got a mushroom on a stick, yes.
Yeah, you can move it and then you can put it back. A little
Move
bit
it.
like action.
And it doesn't, generally speaking, it doesn't look right. I've taken many photographs of mushroom.
all right, well, I need to go back and find the clip that I have somehow. Oftentimes, when you've got multiple tracks going like this, it's possible to accidentally move one of the clips onto another one if it's not visible as you're moving the second clip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure all of that out, and then I'm going to come back and edit the rest of this video. It'll go smoothly from now on because all the hard stuff has been done, and I will do this live tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening. Yeah, in case anybody's still watching and wants to follow along, it'll be sometime mid-afternoon, I imagine. And we'll just come in and we'll finish it up. From now on through, it'll be pretty fast as soon as I get everything lined up, because the actual interview part is pretty quick. The only problems with this interview is because of the fact that they had their laptop turned up loud. When they record their audio, I can hear me faintly in the distance with a delay, so it makes it much harder to edit the audio, so that I edit out all of my voice coming from their end, and vice versa. So you'll see when we get into it, but it's complicated, but once you get the hang of it, it goes pretty quick. Okay, that's going to be it. That was 2 hours. That's more than enough. I need a break anyway, and I will be back. I'm not going to do any more editing on this, so that when we come back to finish this, it will be right where it is now, only I'll know what's going on with the clips. So let me see if anybody actually did join and stay on. Yeah, 7 of you are still there. Well, bravo. Nobody said a word. Did I have the comments turned off the whole time? That would be typical. Let me nope. I don't think. You know what? I bet it's I bet what it is 7 of my friends came on and turned on their video and then went out for dinner. There have been 139 views while this has been going on. Well, I'll be damned. Okay, I'm gonna make this into a video at some point and put it up for anybody who's interested. But we will be back tomorrow and get this edit finished. And if you have any questions, well, that was the time you could have asked. I hope I haven't had the chat turned off. I don't really know how to turn it up. No, I have had it turned on. Okay, all right, guys, I'll see you in another day if you want to come back. Otherwise, come over to my channel. I don't normally just talk to myself for 2 hours at a time. Normally we do fun stuff. Actually, if you're at all into photography, then you should come over and see some of the fun stuff we do. But anyway, that's enough for tonight. I'll see you in another day, I hope. Take care and be well.